Hello, I'm Electric Wolf and we're back in Unity again today. So last time I showed you how to put some extra debug information around your game objects to make it clearer what they're doing and how they interact, and today I'm going to enhance that and make it a little bit more functional. To start with, I've got this sphere and it's got a radius that's displayed on the screen, and you can set that radius to whatever value you want, and that works. However, there's a slightly better way, and that's with handles. And you can actually have your handle within your editor, and it allows you to adjust that however you like, and you can move your object and then define that perfectly to how you want it. I'll show you the code to do that in a minute, but next I want to show you this cube. Let's go back. So maybe you've got a cube and you want to define an area where this cube could move around in, and you could do that through the code. So I could add an extra set of points here, and then I could adjust those by hand. All 2's not quite enough, maybe I need 4, and this one needs to come down, so let's do that way. It's not ideal, and you can already see here I've got handles on these, so we can make it easier to modify, and it's a lot easier to work with. And this little button over here, it's an add button, so you can add new ones just as you like. This code's limited to how it works, but it does its job, and you could loop them back together and just define your area how you want it for this object. And one of the other useful things you could do is make it so you could hide this as well, so you won't see it every time you select it, but when you're ready to make a change you can, and it gives you that option, and it will keep it and it will persist that for you. So let's have a look at the code and let's see how it's done. Okay, so I've reverted the code. So this is a very basic game object with a circle displaying the radius that you can modify here, and we want to add the handles to that. So first of all, let's recap on what that's actually doing. We've got show handles, that's my game object. We store the size, which is the radius, and then we're just drawing this wire sphere on this on draw gizmo selected, and that's basically all we need to do for that. In order to make it work with handles, we need to have an editor script, and again these scripts you've seen before live in an editors folder. So here's my show handles script, and here's my show handles game object file. So whenever you're doing these UI elements, you have to put it inside an editor folder, and then it appears in your editor project, and that's what I have here. And this is a basic setup. So I've just got my UI side of my show handles, and it's hooked into the show handles object, takes it and just stores it, and that's all we have for now. The next thing we need to do in order to have an interactable an interactable object, we need to add on-scene GUI. So this is our graphical unit user interface for this object whilst it's selected. Now here's what we're going to do is take the current position and the last known position of the handle, and you'll notice in my game object on this side I've got a last pos, and that's just storing a position where the handle is, and if you remember, it's a square box, and that's what we're working out, is the position of that box. The next thing we want to do is actually draw the handle itself, and that's done this way. That's there you go. So it's going to draw the last known position plus my current position, and it's going to display that as a square box, and we should be able to test that now. There you go. As you can see, with it selected, we have our box, but you notice that it's not moving because we're not updating the position of that last position variable. And if we go back to the code, we can do that. So we need to update that last position with its new position. If we just quickly save that again and try it, So now you can see we can move that around as much as we like, and it retains its position because we're telling it where to draw, but we're updating that every time it changes. So the next two things we want to do, looking at the code, well, we don't want to be updating this every time because, well, what if it hasn't changed? Isn't that just wasted processing? Well, yes. So it's what you can do is just check the position. So, oops, we know the position we were drawing it at, and we can test its new position to see if it's different. If it is, then we update it, and that just makes it a little bit more efficient. But more importantly, is what we want to do is add the radius. In this case, I'm storing it as size, and we're going to take it from the last position and just use the magnitude. So the last position is that offset from our center, so the magnitude of that will be the size we're interested in. So let's have a look at that. And there you go, the radius is now being updated based on the magnitude between the center here and the center of this object, and we're just displaying that in the UI. There we go. Okay, now for the next part I want to show you that area effect that we had around the other game object, and I've stripped the code back and I can work on it together. As you can see here, I've got 4 nodes, so it's displaying 3 lines. We can add another node and that will display another line, and we can define where that goes, or we can remove it. But yeah, it's not terribly user friendly, so let's add our handles to this and make it really usable. The first bit of the code I want to show you is how we're drawing those lines. So we've got edit path as true, and the first thing we do when we come to draw things, we check to make sure that we want to draw it, and we'll see the same when we come to do the editing side as well. The next thing I do is I check to see if I've got any nodes, which is currently stored as a vector 3 list. And then the first thing I do is take the very first node, hence the reason I needed this check, and then I loop through the rest of the nodes using that last position. So it will take node 0, which is here, and then this will be node 1, and it will draw from node 1 to node 0, and then here it will update that node 0 to node 1 and come back around, and this will be like node 2 to node 1. So it's quite efficient. Looking at the actual code that we want, again, this is in the editor side that we need to do this. So the first thing we need to do is add that on scene GUI again. We can just add that like so. It's going to do nothing for us yet. To keep in line with this, we're going to do our edit node, edit path, and that's all done. Next thing we need to do is store a handle position. This is just going to help us draw those nodes. So we want to run through all the nodes that we have and display a handle for each of them, which is all here. So for every node that we have, I want to update the handle position with that node, and then we draw that handle, the square box, and then we do the same as we did before. So if that has moved, we can, well, first of all, I normalize it so it's always on a horizontal, so I set the Y to 0. But other than that, then we update the position. In this case, it will be node 0. You may have to set that to the position of your object, which you could do, that's no problem. For simplicity, I just null it. So if we have a look at that in the editor, you can see that we have these handles on all the nodes, and they respond because we're storing them every time they change. So the next thing we want to do is add a little button so we can add a new node as needed. So the code for that is quite easy. Because this handle position has the very last node, and that's the one we want to add the next one to, we can use that because it's defined outside of the loop. And here I'm just going to offset it by 2 units. This is totally random. You may need to define it as something different. I need to just define a quaternion, which is just a vector with rotation. That's just to help the button get displayed. Helps with its alignment. So then the next thing we need to use is these handles button, where we draw the button at a particular point, and in this case we're using a circle. as a display mechanism, and should somebody click on that button, it will come into the if statement, and in this case it just goes through those nodes and it adds a new one, and it's using that handle position. It will have that offset. It doesn't matter. The important thing is it's away from your current position, otherwise they'll be adding on top of each other and you wouldn't know what's happening. If you were really clever, you could take the last couple of positions that you have and kind of do a projection of where you think it should go. Again, for simplicity's sake, I'm showing you how to use the handles, so I'll keep it as basic as I can. And then back in the editor, you can see we've got our button. If we click that, the new node appears exactly where the button was, and I can position that exactly as we need. So there you go. That's how to use handles within the Unity editor, and all the code is available on the website. The links are down below. Please subscribe if you want to hear more of these. I'll continue to do as many as I can, and hopefully you'll find them useful. Thank you very much.